classes, social slime, they don't matter, genocide. Sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air, fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape, they burn the kids. No one makes countries laugh to your face, fight and die, cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slide, they don't matter, genocide. Sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care. See their shit, force a bear, fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape, they burn the kids. No one leaves countries, lie to your face, fight and die, cause God forgives. Yeah, coming back around again.
What's going on here? Okay, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is Game On. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. It is the 21st of February 2016. And it's been kind of a weird last bunch of hours here. I didn't get to bed till 3 o'clock in the morning. My plan is normal on Saturday nights, get to bed as early as I can, but I got some calls came in and I didn't get to bed till 3 o'clock in the morning. And that's okay, really. I got a call from a lady out of Salmon Arm, BC last night. And it was an interesting call. A couple of reasons. We had a really long chat, and I appreciate these calls. I just wish people would do them while we're doing the show. But it was a really good chat, and again, she's an older lady, you know, and again, I got to ask, where's the guys? You know, where are the guys? It seems these calls I get tend to be from middle-aged to, you know, 70-year-old women and that. And, you know, it seems they're the ones guarding the house now. They've been in the house going, where the hell did Rooster go? He's supposed to be looking after this stuff, you know. I don't know. Maybe it's my voice. I don't know. You know, maybe if I want to get the guys to call, what's left of the guys in this world, maybe I got to change the way I speak. You know, maybe I got to speak more feminine or something to the guys. I don't know, but I don't know what's with the guys. the women seem to be more tuned in than the guys. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because of their, because they bear children and that. I don't know. But it was a really good chat, and we talked about a lot of things. We talked about, what's going on out west, and she brought Suzuki up and some of the past of Suzuki when he was a professor and that, selling acid and whatnot at the university and stuff. I mean, the guy's a whack case. So we had a good chat about that and a lot of different other things that are going to hell in a handbasket here. And so she's getting really tuned in, and that's good. And then, there was Helen from Calgary and totally tuned in. There was another lady from Calgary and who was instrumental in having the fluoride pulled from the place. And they're past this nonsense of writing petitions. They're past this nonsense of holding up, protest signs and that. I mean, these women are getting aggressive, and I like it. I like it a lot. As far as the fluoride goes, and I forgot the name of the lady, that she was an ex-school teacher. She thought she was doing the right thing. She was teaching the curriculum. It wasn't until after she retired and had some time, was out of the system, time to reflect on this, that she realized that she'd been used, and that she was actually not teaching the children in school. She was actually mentally abusing them. And so she take that real personal. And as far as the fluoride in Calgary went, they went to council, and council blows them off. Thanks for coming, here, thanks for the names on the petition and stuff. We appreciate it. Have a nice day. Pat, hit the road. And, she didn't take that well, so they finally just started posting the faces and names of the council, the city council, and polls and whatnot all over the city, and posting their personal phone numbers, and saying that these people are poisoning the people of Calgary. I mean, they went after them. And you see, it wasn't until you expose them publicly that you're ever going to really accomplish anything. Okay, as long as they think they got it contained, they're not going to do anything. I know this well because I got these outfits coming at me from every freaking direction, and they have been for years. I have a house here that hasn't had a meter on it, and it'll be 2 years, I think, this June. I haven't been able to rent it out. They broke every rule in the book to do it. 3 years ago, they took my meter off the house. They didn't take the meter off, but the police came here and shut the power off unlawfully, illegally. Broke every rule in the book to do it. We've been dragged into court for charges that were wrong. Created no problems for anybody. Trying to grind into the ground, and the only reason that happens is because I expose this crap. And they want to have you to submit, and they're willing to beat you as hard as they possibly can in order for people to say this isn't worth the trouble anymore. Well, it is worth the trouble. It's worth every ounce of trouble. You got to get in their faces. You got to stay in their face, and you got to be prepared to stand up and take the licking you're going to take. Because if you don't, well, then you just rolled over, and then you got no reason to complain about anything. Right? We have no reason to complain about anything anyways. We just got to get this fixed. And it's only going to get fixed via the people. So, and then this morning when I got up, before I even got up this morning, there was calls coming in, and I've been fielding those since I probably basically got moving this morning. And so I really wanted to, Chris/Duck called in last night about the Muslims at the Trenton military base and that, and I said I was hoping to do some research on that last night, and this morning in particular I haven't had a chance to get anywhere near it. Got up, I was fielding calls, I went uptown to get a coffee, and so that's where I'm going to start today after the coffee. There was a story on the front page of the Toronto Sun. That would be a right-wing paper. This is for the right-minded people. And then I have a story from the left here. the first story really irritates the hell out of me because it's exactly, this is so truthful it hurts. Okay, and this is a story up at, I think it was Lake Simcoe. No, this one was in Georgian Bay. A guy died out fishing. So a bunch of buddies went fishing. And I'm not sure when this took place. I don't know if this is extremely recent or what. But this is basically the story. So a bunch of buddies get on their snowmobiles, they go fishing. They go ice fishing, they got a hut out there, and they agree that they probably stayed out on the ice too late. It was getting dark. They should have come in sooner when they could see exactly where they were at on the ice, so that they could, I've spent time on the ice, and you got to be able to read the ice. It doesn't matter where you are. See, this is your normal senses that you're supposed to have. It's the same as when you go into the bush. You got to understand the bush. You can get in trouble. And you got to be able to read these things. And I think that this natural sense that we have, our natural nature sense that we have, because that's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to understand our surroundings. And what we understand now is driving around in our cars and watching TV and going to the movies and all this. It takes away your natural sense. It makes you, it puts you in a dangerous position in nature. And nature is not where you should be in a dangerous position. I mean, there's danger everywhere. Getting in your car is a danger. But I don't believe our natural senses. I think they've been dulled down to the point where we don't pay attention enough. So anyways, these guys go out in the ice. They're going to go fishing. They do go fishing, and they leave a little late. It's getting dark, and they checked the ice before they went out. They figured they had 8-10 inches ice, which is lots, but there's always going to be a soft spot depending on the snow depths and this and that and the other thing. And so coming in, they figure they got too close to an island, and obviously, anytime you're getting near a shoreline, you're going to be looking at thinner ice. Okay, it's just the way it is. And the lead snowmobile went through the ice. So from that, it's getting dark. The guys in the water are trying to clamber back out on the ice. Now I've been through the ice, and it's kind of a scary thought, and it's cold. Makes no bones about it. It is cold, but I learned very young that you can't panic. The worst thing you possibly do is panic. And these guys, I know it bites, man. That is some freaking cold. Like it just like a shock going through you. And that's when you have to become extremely calm. Okay? You have to be able to assess your situation quickly. Don't panic. These guys in the water were trying to grab onto the ice, and it's very difficult to because you end up busting the ice, right? So the more you try, the harder you hit, and the more you break, and you're not getting to safety anyhow. So one of the guys who was riding on one back of the machines that didn't go through the ice, he's trying to keep these guys calm as possible. It's cold, they're wet, and they don't have the proper equipment to get them out of the ice, out of the water. But he does his damnedest. He gets one buddy up. They had a short rope, and he couldn't get close enough to him, so he tied a cooler on it. And after a few tries, and the one guy got a hold and it got him up on the ice, and totally frozen. And he didn't know what to do at that point. So the reason he was on the back of the snowmobile is because he'd been drinking. And they had a rule that you don't drive and drink or drink and drive. Now, this goes all to hell in a handbasket because his buddies, one's up on the ice, two are in the water, and he can't get at them. He can't get close enough to them. So he jumps on the sled and heads for shore and looking for help. By the time he gets back out, he's absolutely froze to the core. He can't signal. He went back out with a rope, but he can't. He's done. So hovercraft or whatever comes out, and one of the gentlemen died, so he ends up in jail for impaired driving. This is a situation where all the cards are off the table, right? He's trying to save his friends. And they impounded the snowmobile, charged him $700 some to get the snowmobile back. He's charged with impaired driving. He's sitting in jail, doesn't know what happened to his friend. And the gentleman that died turned out to be the son of a retired cop. And, he's totally devastated losing his son, who is, I think, in his 40s or whatever, maybe 50s. And so, they had the story on the front page was, I'll have to back this up a second here, to the front page story was this isn't the same as was on the paper. This just says fisherman charged after saving pals. The story on the front page of the print paper was Hero, right? Gets charged, and this guy did everything in his power to save his buddies, risking his own life at it. And ends up with a ticket for impaired, and the snowmobile impounded, and it cost him $700 and something to get the snowmobile back, and now he's facing charges of impaired driving on the ice. And this is sad. This is a really, really sad story. And it's just one more point that the police, suffer mentally because in this case they're going to say they were just doing their job. They weren't doing their job. Okay. Well, they were doing their job. Their job is to collect from the slaves, okay, and bring money to the crown, and that's what they did. The man risked his life. They lost one of their friends. Their lives will never be the same. And for his efforts, he has his life destroyed in the process. And this is unfortunately the job of the police. Okay, this idea that they put the police forward that, they're good, upstanding community members. Well, it depends what you're talking about the community. How are you defining community? Are you talking about a community as that which is inhabited by crown state slaves, and that these police officers are community police? Okay, well, in that sense, it's true. Okay, but are they there for the benefit of the people? No. Do they help people? Sometimes, okay, but that is there to legitimize all the rest of the nonsense. It's like a storefront, right, with the real business taking place out the back door. Now, and I agree with this stuff. Now, like I said, I've been through the ice, and I was through the ice when I was, 12, somewhere in there. And when that ice let loose, trust me, it gets your attention. Probably as much or more than if you were walking through your house and all of a sudden the floor opened up and you hit the basement floor. It gets your attention, you know. I was lucky. I mean, I was out in the river, and same thing, you know. The river ice was good, and there was a huge beaver dam. And same thing, you know, and I knew it. But being kids and you know, you want to push it all the time. And I got too close to the dam, and the ice was weak there, and down I went. And I mean, we were very good at reading ice when I was a kid. We didn't grow up in the era of fear. Fear everything. Okay, we grew up in the era when you're supposed to have your wits about you, and it's your responsibility, and we were responsible for it. I mean, we knew how to read the ice. We knew where not to get to on the ice, and where we could be on the ice. And you know, I just got too close to where I probably knew the ice was too thin, and it opened up, and I went down. And you know, I just was lucky enough to grab a tree branch up above on the way down, and you know, I went down down to my chest, and I managed to drag myself back out of there. But you know, then I got to go home and get changed. It's like very, very cold out, and I didn't even get back up the hill to the street. And I couldn't bend my legs. I mean, everything was froze solid. You know, I was laughing. I mean, we were cold. I mean, this is the era when your mother's, and if you're my age and you're in this neck of the woods, you probably had the same thing. We would go out and play, and the idea was that we'd get so cold that you know, I would say, well, once you're cold enough, your feet will go numb, and therefore they don't hurt anymore because of the cold. But when they start to thaw out again, look the hell out, you know. And when I was a kid in my neighborhood, mothers were very used to doing this. We would come in, and then we'd start to warm, and the pain would be outrageous, and they would just fill up the bathtub with cold water and throw us in it so that we would thaw. We would thaw out at the proper rate. But this was all normal. So, but what's not normal is when somebody is in that kind of position, to have these police arrest somebody, throw them in jail, and then impound the snowmobile like it did something wrong. Like the gentleman that was trying to save his friends actually did something wrong, and say they're just doing their job. And they are just doing their job, okay, because they're corporate thugs. And I mean, I know enough police, and I've known them over the years, and I never, you know, I'm not one of these guys that yell at them. Yeah, pegs. I always try to speak to them. You know, it's almost like an attempt at deprogramming, I suppose you might say. They brought up like and through a system, and they believe what they were told, and they're getting paid really well. But you know, if you look at you know, where the word police came from, it came from policy, okay, and they were originally their original job was to protect the goods of the merchants, i.e. the bankers and the lawyers and that. And they were stable boys. I mean, they were the lowest of the low. They weren't bright people. Okay, you know, people. Oh, when I grow up, I want to be a stable hand or a stable boy for a rich man. Okay, these people aren't bright. They've never been bright. They were given an extra job if they wanted it to make a few extra bucks, when they weren't, brushing down the horses and mucking out the stables. And that's where the police came from. Their job has always been to protect the rich man and the merchant, and that is all they've ever done, and that's all they ever do, and they don't care. They don't care about you. They care about doing their jobs. Okay, and that's all they've ever done. So to the police to give this guy the ticket, to the police that had the snowmobile impounded, and I think especially to the retired policeman whose son died out there on the ice, or under the ice. Maybe he learned something from this. I'm not sure he did, but he maybe he did. Maybe he learned something. I don't know, but it really sucks that they have this kind of tragedy, and then this is the outcome of it by the police. It is, it makes one ponder. And, that's what irritates me. It really irritates me. Every time I see a demonstration for pipeline or windmills or fracking or whatever the hell the protest is about, I don't know why people don't understand this, we're protesting this because you're impeding our happiness, or you're taking away our rights, or you're this entity that just moved into our neighborhood without requesting anything from us or asking us or anything else, and you're just walking in here and rolling over us, and they go out to protest, and don't they notice which side of the line the police are standing on? Okay, and if you go back, you will find that the police, Rockefeller and the boys used, they had their own police forces, just like the Hudson's Bay Company, just like the Virginia Company, the Plymouth Company, they're all companies. They had their own police forces. Okay, and these big money men way back when, they had their own police forces. When the people went on strike, they would bring in their hired thugs to beat them down. Right? To beat them down, shoot them if necessary, but beat them down. This is a paid-for authority. And that was slowly brought in to the government side. Okay? Because who's the government? The government is a corporate situation for the benefit and controlled by the rich men, the corporate men. And so then we ended up with police forces. And it was legislated through on behalf of and for the benefit of the rich men, not the public. These are not public. They're not there for the public. They never were there for the public. The public didn't create them. The public wasn't running around, we need police, we need police. It was all the same way they bring everything through the legislatures. Problem, reaction, solution. And that's been going on for basically ever. So I guess I see we have a new stun gun or something here in Canada coming out. And this is a more non-lethal. It looks like it's an orange rifle or something. I don't know what the hell it's shooting. Tasers again or what? I don't know what it is. But this is a new thing that they're coming out with after that kid got killed on the bus in Toronto. So that the police can shoot him with that instead of shooting him 9 times with a revolver. So they brought this out, and now they're going to, this is brought out specifically, this new stun gun or whatever it is that they come out with. This is brought out specifically because the lawyers have appealed the conviction of attempted murder, even though he did kill the kid, which is not, it's not attempted. It was done. The kid ain't alive, so it can't be attempted murder. So what they do, again, is they try to throw the responsibility onto the dead kid. You know, I only attempted to kill him, and he went ahead and died. That's his fault. That's the logic behind what they do. So now they're coming out with this new stun gun, and they're talking about their training and how they have to retrain. But had this stun gun been in place at the time, even though the police officer had felt threatened by a kid with a penknife on a bus, with nobody else there, the kid was just an open target, and this guy somehow felt threatened and shot the kid 9 times. So this is all going to be brought out in part of the appeal defense. It has nothing to do with the safety of people. It has to do with getting this cop off of charge of attempted murder, which is ludicrous, again, because the kid was murdered. So, people, oh, isn't this wonderful? They're going to come out with something, because it's so sad what happened to that kid. But had they had a different a way to stop the kid wasn't going anywhere. So it wasn't a matter he had to stop him. The kid couldn't go anywhere. So this is this mental twist again on the public. Problem, reaction, solution. This is the problem. We killed the kid, and now we got to stew up a new reaction. And in order to get this cop that killed that kid off the hook. Okay, so the solution is to get this cop off the hook for murdering the kid. Okay, he's found guilty of attempted murder. Now we got to figure out how to get him off. The facts remain: the kid was standing on a bus. She shot him 9 times. The kid's dead. He didn't hurt anybody. He wanted to basically just to talk to his father. I mean, I would have had no problem defusing the situation without a gun. And I'm afraid of a kid with a penknife? No. Right? The kid's distraught. He's having a hard time, and maybe he's on some of these street drugs, which are mostly pharmaceutical drugs now. Most of the street drugs now are coming out of the pharmacies. So the kid's either up on something or coming down off of something. He's distraught. He's having a bad day, and you guys decide that he's a threat and you shoot him. So problem. We got a cop here that's charged with attempted murder. He's been found guilty of it. What's the solution? Get him off of the charges. How are we going to do that? We're going to create a reaction. And how are we going to do that? Well, this is exactly how we're going to do. We're going to use the media, as we always do. And we're going to come up with this new non-lethal way to stop someone if the cop feels threatened. And had this been available at the time, is basically how this is going to play out, then the outcome of the confrontation, which wasn't a confrontation, it was simply a distraught kid standing in the doorway of a freaking empty bus with a penknife. But had we had this new non-lethal rifle at the time, then likely that young man would be still alive today. So it wasn't the policeman's fault, okay? It was the victim's fault. It's always the victim's fault when you're protecting the police force. And it was the problem of training, and it was the problem of not having the right utility, i.e. a non-lethal stun gun of some sort, that this kid died. So therefore, it is everybody's fault except the guy that pulled the trigger. And that's how this is going to play out. And I would not be the least bit surprised if this policeman who murdered that kid on the bus walks. I can guarantee you he's going to walk. And he'll be offered, state paid, because obviously he's going to say he's distraught now, which he didn't show anywhere through the trial. But they'll bring that card out, and that he will be retrained, and maybe he'll do some desk time. But he ain't going to get fired. and he's still getting his full paycheck, as far as I know, because it's in appeal. And this will play out probably over the next 2 years. And once people have forgotten all about this, this policeman will walk. I would be willing to put money on it that this cop walks for killing that kid on the bus, and that's bloody unfortunate. But my advice to you is don't ever try to save your friend if he falls through the ice and you've had a couple of drinks while you were out ice fishing. Don't do that. Let your friend drown, okay? Do not go and try to find help, because the help that might come out, which it was, will charge you and throw your ass in jail and then impound the vehicle that you were on, even though no one was harmed, okay? This was a desperate attempt to save a life. And we see how important life is to the corporation. It's not. You are absolutely expendable. And the state will have collected on the death of that guy, because that stock share will be traded in and paid out on. And the guy that tried to save his buddy is carrying the same the stock certificate, of which they will pull his labor from, which they are doing. And this, no one was harmed. Okay, the only one that was harmed was the one that was trying to save those who were in trouble. And they call that policing. They call that justifiable. It's sad. It's really sad. But this is what we live in. And we got to change it, you know. The guy put his life on the line to save someone and ends up getting bitch slapped for it. It's unfortunate. Now, in that story, there is a couple of good things in that story, and it tells you how, what you should and shouldn't do, which is completely correct. You know, make sure that you have the proper equipment so that if you do get into trouble, you can try and get back out of trouble. Very important. You know, had they had the proper rope with them, you know, a long enough rope, if they would have had a donut attached to the rope, they could have pulled the guys likely and got them out of there, but they have to use level heads. And, you know, once you're in a bad spot, it's very difficult to keep a level head. It's very important. I went in the water in November, completely decked out in winter clothes and big bush boots and parka and that. And trying to get up, I kept sliding back in, and the water was deep there was no shoreline. It was like it was a quarry. And trying to get up that ice, or up that clay hill with wet boots wasn't working. And I kept sliding back down, and I was getting damn tired, getting damn cold. And that's when you just have to shake yourself and say, just chill out here. Get calm, right? Get very, very calm, and figure out what your position is, and deal with it the best you can. And so I've had my fun in the water, and I managed to survive it. But it's about calmness, and this is the also thing. If you look at what we're fighting against here across the West, for sure, is we have to stay calm. I get calls from people that are just so wound out, it's ridiculous, right? You know, they're coming at us. What are we going to do? We got to start shooting at them. No, that's how you drowned, okay? That's how you kill any forward movement you had, is when you get all wound out of shape, and then you're not thinking with a calm, straight mind. And that's what they're begging the people to do. You know, lose your freaking mind, get excited, If we don't do this today, it's over. They're not over. We're just getting started. Okay, this didn't happen yesterday. Okay, I mean, people are becoming more aware that there's something real ugly going on, but it's been going on since long before you were ever born. So this idea that you're just going to fix it tonight is not going to happen. Okay, this has to be methodical, just like they were methodical. It's almost like an arm wrestling thing. You get the two arms up here, you get the hands locked in, and you're staring each other down. And you've seen it lots of time in arm wrestling, where someone has the advantage, and then it starts moving back the other way, and it's moving this way, and it's intense as hell, and it's kind of wavering here, and then eventually somebody, boom, they go down. And that's what we have to do. Okay, we have to lock hands with these people, and we have to take them down. And it's not hard for us to take them down because there's a whole hell of a lot more of us than there are them. So if we get our minds right and get back into a lawful position instead of whining and bitching about this legal system that has entrapped us all, we have a much larger arm and a much bigger hand than they do. It would be like a 250-pound weightlifting man taking on a 12-year-old. That's how much power we got. And we're not the 12-year-old. Okay? And we should have no problem correcting the situation whatsoever. None. If we put our minds to it. Okay? And we stop being distracted. Order out of chaos. Never forget that. Order out of chaos. They've created so much chaos, it's nuts. You got the people fighting against GMOs. You got the people fighting against chemtrails. You got the people fighting against fluoride. You got people fighting against the banks. You got the people fighting against the legal system. You got people fighting against the education system. You got people fighting all of these freaking separate fights. Okay, and it has completely fractured everything. It has put it into complete and total chaos. Most people fighting fluoride don't know much or anything about GMOs. Most people fighting GMOs don't know anything about fracking. They don't see the connections. They've got themselves centered on this one thing. If we can just stop fluoride in our community, everything will be fine. No, it won't. You fighting fluoride in your community keeps your eyes off what else is going on. You don't see it. So they'll drag you out on the fluoride fight, and eventually they may back down and say, okay, we'll take the fluoride out of the water, and everybody's, oh, we won. No, you were distracted. You didn't win anything. You were distracted because all of the other things are still coming. Okay, so, it's all one thing that we're fighting. Okay, and we got to take all of these things that create the massive amounts of chaos and put them into one container. Because all of these things that are negative to us all came from the same place. So just put them in the same container and deal with them as a unit. And then we can make some very big changes a lot quicker. And it is necessary. Now, I say you're not going to fix this overnight. Although I did, let me think here, on a show I did recently, and I did put into Facebook, and I did tell actually Jones about years ago, is that there's actually a very quick fix to the problem we face in the West. And I do believe that the best place to fix it at, even though I live north of you guys, is in America. Okay? And that is, and I am a firm believer in this, I've studied coups, I've studied revolutions, not maybe to the depth some people have, but I have most definitely looked into it, and the reactions, the outcomes, and so on and so forth. And one thing I believe history backs up is the fact that most of the people, it's only a very small percentage of the people that ever make change. Okay, it's a very small percentage of the people that have got us into these chains they got us in. Okay, the majority of the people, I mean, the absolute vast majority of the people got chained. They didn't realize they got chained, and so there's only going to be ever a small group of people that have the capacity and done put the time in to understand that we've all been shackled, that have the capacity to make the change. And most of the people that are shackled are accepting of it, if you will. They may not be happy about it when they work all year and then they see how much tax they paid and they find out that they worked all year and they're still broke. And when they work next year, they're going to still be broke. And as that big hand that gets bigger that goes into your pocket and continues to take more of your labor each year, it won't matter how hard you work, you're going to still be broke. And that's the plan. So those people, most of them will never, ever, ever stand up. Most revolutions are pulled off by a very small number of people. If you are coming from a good side, then the people are not. Well, it doesn't matter if you come from a bad side. The people don't tend to stand up. Now, if we look at America, America is an absolute reverse coup. So it's not. It's everything was stolen from the people, and it was done through deception and fraud. So the people have every right to go take back what was stolen from them. That's why I call it a reverse coup. It's not a revolution and it's not a coup. It's just simply a reverse coup. You're just simply going over to your neighbors that came over to your house when you weren't home and took your lawnmower and never brought the damn thing back, and now you can't cut your lawn. And this has caused you harm. Okay, it was his actions that caused you harm. Well, you wouldn't think twice, I hope. Although a lot of people probably would think twice. Why don't you just go get the damn lawnmower? Oh, I'm sure Jim will bring it back when he's done with it. The kind of attitude it would be the general attitude of the general man or woman. They don't want to cause controversy. They want to just get along, even though the guy didn't ask you for the lawnmower and he went and took it and is down in his yard and he's using it and you ain't got the use of it. Most people, they just don't know how to stand up for anything. So we don't worry about those people. There's no point worrying about those people. Now, when you run the numbers work quite well, and it's just a reverse coup. So they can't say that these are domestic terrorists. The terrorists are the ones that stole your freedom and your lands from you. They're the terrorists. And terrorism was coined out of France, and it was a description of the government at the time. They were the terrorists. They terrorized the people. Well, look around. Who's being terrorized? The people. And who's terrorizing them? The government. Okay, so who exactly is the domestic terrorist? Is it these guys that went and took over that federal building out in Oregon? Are they the terrorists? No, they're pushing back against the terrorists. Okay, but the media doesn't do that because the media is owned by the rich people who misdirect reality and point these people as the terrorists. They're the freedom fighters. Okay, plain and simple. So, how are you going to get America back? Donald Trump going to get it back for you? Don't think so. Hillary Clinton going to get it back for you? I don't know. Nah, I don't think so. So who's going to get America back? Who's going to put America back in the hands of the people? Well, that's kind of a simple question, and it comes with a simple answer. Who is going to put America back in the hands of the people who own the lands and the resources? Those are the people of America. Well, who but the people of America have the capacity to change this? So, how are you going to change it? Well, it was stolen from you. and you're going to have to go get it back. Now, you're never going to get it back pulling off what was pulled off or the attempted pulled off in Oregon. That's never going to happen. That's just like a spot fire that can be put out. And they did put it out. Now, it angered a lot of people, but, they have these gentlemen in jail now. And, back in the old days, people would be working on a plan to go and take the jail and release those people. People don't do that sort of thing anymore. But you do got to get the country back. Once you have the country back, then you have the jail back, and then you're in control of the jail, and then all you have to do is phone up the jail and say, release those people. Just like Obama, the CEO of the corporation, has the authority to phone up a jail and say, release those terrorists. Okay? That were jailed. Because he has control. And the people don't have control. Once the people have control, then they have the power to phone up any jail anywhere and said those were good, honest, upstanding men and women, and open the gate for them. Okay? You have the right to pardon. And but you don't have that control right now. You don't have that authority right now. Okay, you're still in the slave position, so you have to get back to being men and women. And like I said, how fast could you change it? And I'm not a violent guy, and I'm not into violence. I can protect myself, but I will do everything in my power to avoid violence. Everything. I don't believe it's necessary. I have a mind. You have a mind, and I'm sure we can sit down at a table and come to a reasonable position for both sides. Okay? So, there are times that the older I get, the less I'm still aggressive, but not in the same form. Besides, when you get too aggressive, you hurt your knuckles. I found even if you win the fight in that kind of a fight, you're still gonna have some hurt. So I don't see the point in that, but I do see the point in rectifying problems, and who is right in the rightful position, and the people are in the rightful position, not the government. The government is not in a rightful position here. They're in a wrong position, and they hurt the people. So therefore, the people have they have the authority to remove the government. And that was the nice thing about your Constitution. You were told by your founders what to do, and it needs to get done. Do we need a civil war? No. We just need to take back what belonged to the people in the first place. And that's the lands and the resources and the government, if you want to call it that. But a real government, buying for the people, not buying for the corporation. An honest government, not a dishonest government. A government who cares about the well-being of their people, not a government that is only concerned about keeping people down, keeping people fearful, and robbing from the people. Hardly something you would call a government, something you would hardly ever go to a thing and attempt to vote for a different one to control the same corporate entity that enslaves you. So, after careful consideration, when I phoned Jones, I run numbers, and how many people does it take to take back America? 50,000 would be a wonderful number. There's been Million Man marches. Here, come here for a minute. Okay. You can get 1 million men and women to walk up to the gates, but they can't seem to go through the gates. Now, you don't need 1 million. You need, I would suspect that 10,000 would be more than ample 50,000 would be fantastic, but 10,000 probably get the job done. And we know they're cowards. Most of the people that are in government never fought in a war. They got exemptions because they're the product of the corporate rich people. And they can always find a way out of their harm. They don't mind sending your children to war to have them slaughtered. But anyways, history again, when they went up and burned down the legislature on the west, on the east coast of Canada, so-called Canada, a small handful of people, I mean, considerably tiny, some native people, some English people and whatnot, when the Americans came up and burned down that legislature on the east coast here, we just went down there and burned down the damn White House. Okay, and those guys going down there, I read some old stories about them. They were quite nervous what they were going to run into. And when they got there, the place was vacant because these pencil necks all run away. And these aren't fighting men that are running the show. These aren't fighting men that have the control of your finances, your resources, your way of life. They're not brave men. Okay, they're sleazeballs, really. They're weasels. And so I'm going to say it again today after reading that story about the police here. The simple fact is you've been robbed. You've been robbed of everything. And unless you like it that way, then you're going to have to change it. And we will continue to educate everybody we can as far as the police and the politicians. It's all big deprogramming program. Or you can pull the plug quicker, and that is go grab 10,000 people. And it's as simple as sending 5,000 of them through them gates. And you don't have to be armed. And just walk on in there and arrest these clowns. And lock down D.C., that 10 square miles. Just take it back. And take the rest of the people, make sure you have good engineers, make sure you have good talking heads, and do what the rich men did, okay? When they came over here to take this place over, what did they do? The first thing they did was say, go get control of the four largest newspapers in the country, okay? That's step one. Because once you have control of that media, you have control of the message. The message is the media. And the media is the message. Very powerful tool. So you simply go and get your people together who have the capacity to run the equipment and walk in. These aren't big crews that are running these things, okay? It doesn't take a lot of people to run a feed, and that's really all it is. They have some tech people, some talking heads people, and some equipment. And they can fire out their messages over ABC, CBC, or CBC's up here, but all of the major networks. And I guarantee you, because history states that once you walk in and you take it over, the main federal deal and take over the media and simply put out a message that America is now back in the hands of the people. And we're very happy to announce this fact. And the resources now are back in the hands of the people. The people own the lands. And that stops all your scraps, BLM and all these people and the feds instantly. Fight's over. Okay? Now, if you do have good state militias, then they should be working from the state level. And you get her done. Okay? Nobody's going to come fight with you. Right? Nobody's going to come and fight with you. History states that. You could go there and you could say, hello, I'm whatever, and we're reporting on ABC here. We've interrupted this program that you're watching to make these statements to you. And you make those statements. Stay calm, everybody. Everything is good. And please, now we're going to return to your regular broadcasting. And the people will likely go, Edna, I think we just got the country back. Yeah, shut up. I was watching the show. I don't even know why they interrupted me. I wasn't interested in that shit anyways. I was looking to see what Oprah had to say, or whoever, or whatever the average Joe is, Jane or Joe is watching at the time, because they're gone in the mind. Their minds are mush. And that's like Brzezinski. Take 2.5, 3 generations to totally destroy people's will and their minds. And they've done that. When you have men wearing makeup, I mean, excuse me? So anyways, yeah, I just thought of something I want to read. But the fact of the matter is, it's not lost, okay? And then I have the other group of people who, I have a group of people who say, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Wrong. Okay? Those are very dangerous people. Because the people that know something has to be done, this is a diffusion of those people, because they're going, oh, well, yeah, maybe we can't do anything about it, right? Wrong. You must do something about it. And then we have this other faction who I'm particularly ticked off at. Okay, I'm very ticked off at this. I think I'm more ticked off at this group of people than anybody else. I'm more ticked off at them than I am the police. I'm more ticked off at them than I am government in general. I'm more ticked off than I am the education system. I'm more ticked off at them than the financial system. This particular group ticks me off like no other group, because they are the great deceivers who played a very, very large role in getting us to the enslavement, the position that we're in now, and that are the Christians. They really disappoint me, because they who were told, let no man deceive you, have been for so long so totally deceived and accepting of the deception. It really irritates me. It really irritates me that these average, who they consider themselves to be very upright and good people, knowingly or unknowingly, they're the exact opposite. They're the ones that help facilitate all of this stuff. And don't get me wrong, okay? There's a big difference between understanding of a creator. There's a big difference between faith. There's a huge difference between all of those things and Christianity. Christianity is set up to deceive. Now, what really irritates me about the Christians, and has over the years, and is the fact that every time things get tough, be it, way back when, the nuclear threat, now we have the global warming threat, now we have a combination. They've combined the global warming threat, climate change threat, with the nuclear threat, and they've moved the clock up to 3. Before midnight, it was 5. But because of the added threat to humanity, they call it, of the combination of these two terrible things that could wipe the planet off, that they've moved the clock to 3. Now, what I find from the Christians is they say, this is a sign. It's always a sign. This is a sign of the end times. I don't know how many times through my lifespan I've heard this from these Christians. Oh my God, it's the end of times. Jesus is coming back. And you get the preachers doing this all the time, okay? And it diffuses people again. It weakens people. And, I grew up in a Christian family. We got lots of preachers in the family. And, I've had discussions with these people. I considered being a preacher at one point when I was very young until I understood that this is a complete and total deception. When I talk to these people, they're as bad as a bad politician. They're as deceptive as a bad politician. How can you possibly be a Christian or a Christian minister and be tangled up into the corporate system? How can you do that? You can't do it. Okay? You cannot do it. You can't say I'm a Christian, but I have to bow down to Caesar. You can't do it. Okay? So not only have you allowed yourselves to be deceived, you're running around spreading these deceptions that if I believe in Jesus, then everything's going to be fine. Well, how can you believe in Jesus and bow down to the corporation at the same time? You can't do it. Therefore, all of you Christians who say you are Christians are in fact not. And you're a huge problem. So now they got these Christians out here promoting climate change like it's real. We have to be good stewards of the land. This is what they're preaching in all the churches now. And I say, well, that's just Agenda 21. No, it's not. No, it's not. Well, yes, it is. Now we have all these Christian churches sponsoring Islam into their communities. Actually paying, putting out their labor to bring the enemy into their house. These are not Christians. These are very stupid, dangerous people. If you're a Christian and you're listening to this, you better get your act together, I'm telling you. What Christian family would allow their child to be in the school system? You can't be and allow your child to be in the school system. Okay? So you become an agent of the very thing that you say you're not supposed to be an agent of. It says there that God has no use for persons, no respect. It says you're not supposed to have any respect for persons, yet you parade yourself around as a person. And then you tell me you're a Christian. You're friggin' loony. And it's not really your fault. Just like it's not really the fault of the doctor that's trying to jam vaccination into a kid's arm because he has been totally brainwashed into believing these vaccines are good. Okay, this is the problem. These people were told things that were incorrect, but they believed what they were told. And in most cases, they believe they're doing the right thing. Now, there's a few doctors not out there who have scratched their heads. I've talked to some veterinarians who have scratched their heads, who were absolutely convinced that they were doing the right thing, and now that they see the results of their work, they're starting to question, am I actually doing harm? Well, yeah, you are. Well, how could that be? I was taught this was good. Well, you were lied to. Just like all you Christians sitting in your churches, you were all lied to. Now, do I believe in a creator? Yes. Do I believe in the church? No. How can people be putting their kids, Christians be putting their kids in the schools, and the kids are being told that they're actually humans, not men, not women, but humans, and that they live in a legal system, and they have to follow the legal rules and regulations, when nowhere in that Bible that you're supposed to have read does it even mention the word human or legal. So how can you be so stupid as to believe that human and legal mean the same thing as man and law? You willfully allowed yourself to be deceived, and then you hold yourself up as this group of people that we should all be like. And you wonder why people are leaving the churches. You wonder why people are more apt to believe that they evolved from a great ape than this whole thing is a creation. You know, this is all the deceptions. Okay. Evolution is simply a deception to get you to believe that you are nothing more than a freaking animal, which is a human, the hue of man, and that you must follow and abide by the legal system, which is a system, a corporate system used to control the animals or the humans. Okay? And as long as we're stuck in that, we're going to lose, because you've accepted the fact that you're an animal. Okay? And animals, God gave man dominion over the animals. So these deceivers are calling themselves God, and that goes from the divine right of kings, that they are the proxy of God, or the proxy of Christ, just like the Pope is the vicar of Christ. These are deceiving asses, and we were stupid enough to lay down to this stuff. We should knock their heads off the second this crap come out of their mouth. But the deal was that they would do only God's word, which is the law. And should they get away from the law, then they had no right to rule, because they had broken the law. And they were not a lawful government anymore, or in a lawful position anymore, that they had moved to a position of tyranny. And that's what we live under. Yet all of these Christians, they make more damned excuses than you can shake a stick at, because they can't deal with the truth. Well, the preachers say, I have talked to enough preachers. These people are as evil as you will ever find. Okay? They are corporate minions. Okay? I have more respect for a cop, really, than I do a preacher. Because the preacher is supposed to be honest with the people. He is supposed to abide by the word. Well, if the word is, have no respect for persons, and your church is a person, and you, the preacher, are a person, and you don't stand up against this, then that makes you pretty damn low. And then you turn around and deceive the people with your sermons and that. So, you know, I see the Christian right. It's always about the Christian right. I guess there is no Christian left. I don't know. But this whole idea of, you know, conservative Christians, what the hell is that supposed to mean? You know, what, you can't be a Christian unless you're conservative? What is that? Or the Christian conservative is different than the liberal conservatives or Christians? What is that? It's more deception. Okay? Divide and conquer. It's always been divide and conquer. So, you know, and I'm not talking when I'm bitching about these Christians. It's the same thing as when I bitch about the police and that. I mean, these people have been screwed with. They're easily deceived people, you know. The upper end of the church, the upper end of that runs the police, they know exactly what the game is. And the lower you go down, the less these people understand what they're involved in. Okay? And that's the old story. We only need a few people at the top that get it, and then a bunch of useful idiots below us to implement our programs for us. So if you're a Christian, you ought to get down on your knees. You know, you ought to get down on your knees and beg forgiveness for being such an idiot. Two things have to disappear for these people to get what they want. The end of the Christian faith, which is really mind-boggling that the people of the Christian faith are bringing in Islam, which is brought in to destroy the Christian faith, to destroy the law, not the legal system, but we were founded under law. The principles and supremacy of God, that's what our law was. That the divine right of kings stated that the kings had the authority to implement the law of the Creator. And that law says, do not add to or take away from my law. And should you go outside of that law, that you are no longer lawful, and therefore you have no right to rule, and therefore you have entered into tyranny, and the people must take you down. That's kind of like what your forefathers in America said. Okay, when the government is no longer doing what it's supposed to be doing, then you not only have the right, you have the duty to take it down and return what was given to the people by their Creator back to the people. That's law. So why did they separate church and state? They didn't separate church and state. They separated law from the people and then implemented corporate legal color of, force of law, but not. Similar like to, but not law. So they took your law away from you. They used the idea that everyone has the right to have their own faith in that, but it can't be in the government. What they did was they removed the law. It had nothing to do with different religions in that. It had specifically to do with the removal of the law, of which they did. Now, they have to kill the Christian faith, and they have to kill the Constitution. So why are they bringing in Islam? Because Islam is never separated. Islam is government. Islam is police. Islam is law, which was never separated. And people are going, how can they bring Sharia law in here? Simple. They're being encouraged to come here. They're being paid to come here. They're being paid to set up their communities here. And their communities do not recognize the corporate rules and regulations. They go by their law. Okay? And their law and their state were never separated. So the Muslim people actually have every right to set up their own courts because they were never separated. They are a state. That's what they call it, the Islamic State. So the religion of the Islams or the Muslims and the state of Islam have never been separated. There's been no separation. So they're brought in here to bring in their Sharia law. As the Christian faith continues to be stomped out, then that Sharia law will impose itself across your nation. And they'll make up all kinds of reasons and excuses why we can't do this. They're teaching the children into school how to be a Muslim. They're bringing the prayer mats into the public schools. They're just messing your people up. And the Christians are sponsoring these people into their countries. Duh. I mean, what the hell are they thinking? They're not thinking. That's what they're not doing. They're not thinking. It seems like they have no capacity for thought anymore. You know? And it's, the Christian faith, the Protestant faith, which was supposed to fix this mess, okay, the Reformation, brought about by Martin Luther, was supposed to wake these people up, and it did for a while. That we don't need a go-between, okay, between the Creator and the people. But just like the Catholic and a lot of Christians, Protestants complain about this, about the Catholic Church, is that the people they're encouraged not to read the Bible. Just listen to the priests. And they'll tell you whatever you need to know. But for the vast majority, the Protestants fall into the same category because all the churches are under the Catholic churches. That's easily dug up in the history books. So that was all a big deception anyways. It could have been good. It was like an infiltrated freedom fighter group. And it was all infiltrated. And so now the people go to the church, the Christian churches, the Protestant churches, and they sit there and they listen to these stupid-ass preachers, which are basically the priests, doing these sermons, telling people that they have to do this and they need to do that and yada, yada, yada. And it's to build a one religion. And they don't seem to question anything, you know. I've never been in a church where somebody sticks their hand up in the middle of a sermon and says, "Whoa up, preacher. What the hell are you talking about? You know, why are we saddled with personhood when it says right here not to have any respect for persons? So you're telling us not to have any respect for ourselves. And you're a person, and you're not supposed to have any respect. So here's a whole big room full of people who ain't supposed to respect one another or themselves or the system. And here you are telling us that we are all part of the system and we should like it. And we should do what our corporate masters say, even though the book you're reading from tells us the exact opposite. But you don't see Christians doing that. I'm a Christian. And? You want to explain that to me? I'm a Christian. Really? You know? And I'm a flower. Well, you're not a flower. How do you know I'm not a flower? I just told you I was a flower. Well, you're a man. Really? And you're a Christian, huh? I mean, we got to get in their faces, too. I mean, most of these people are good people, just as most people are good people. Most doctors that I've met are good people. Most teachers I've met are basically good people. But they're confused people. They're deceived people. They don't understand that they don't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't understand that the mouthpieces, the regurgitators of those who actually control the planet. They think that they're doing a good job. They think that what they do is necessary for our society to operate. They just don't get the fact that they've been deceived, and because they've been deceived, they have become themselves the deceivers because they deceive others. So, as far as the Christians go, I mean, I've tried to work with Christians. I've had lots of conversation with preachers, and it is absolutely pathetic. Once you get them into a position that they get uncomfortable on, I've had them just run away, just like judges run away when they get into an uncomfortable position because they can't stand their ground because they're actually standing on quicksand. Okay, we're just not supposed to notice it. But, conversations with lawyers have had them run away. It's really pathetic that we ended up in this situation. But again, it's very, very correctable. And, but we got to start at the local level. These local churches have to change, or you got to pull them people out of those churches. I mean, Christian people should be really, really, really angry. If there's any group of people out there that should be angry, it's the Christians. They should be damned angry, And the Christians, the book says that God was killed off back in the mid-18th or mid-19th century in order to let it bring ecology forward, because ecology couldn't have been brought forward as long as God existed. And the priests were replaced by the scientists. And now, when I question a scientist, I get this nonsense from people. How dare you question a scientist? Well, how dare you be so stupid as to even throw that sentence in my general direction? Okay, it's all about belief systems. And you believe the doctor, you believe the preacher, you believe the teacher, you believe the banker, you believe the policeman, you believe the politician, and everything will be fine. And don't listen to those people that question any of the authorities out there, because obviously they're crazy and they must be domestic terrorists, and they are a threat to this wonderful system that we live in. And you can say that to just about any group of people and they'll go with it. Yeah, they must be those terrorists because, well, I don't want to see anything and I don't want to know anything and I don't want to hear anything, and see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil. We're just happy little slaves. Well, I don't personally like what I see happening to the children. I don't like what they tried to do to me when I was a child. I fought it the whole way. Didn't understand what I was fighting at the time, but I knew I was fighting something that was wrong. And over the years, I've come to understand why I was fighting what I was fighting when I was a child, because I knew something was wrong. And I had to either forget that I knew something was wrong and submit and let go of myself, or I had to keep asking questions, which has just caused me more trouble. But that's okay, because I was in trouble in kindergarten for asking questions. And I will probably die asking questions. And I will probably die trying to deprogram people. But we're all going to die. So you do something positive, or you pretend nothing negative exists. And that makes you a pretender. That makes your life false. Okay? So that means you never even lived your life. And that's unfortunate. But I'm very, very pleased to know that people are getting their act together, like the call I got from that lady last night out of Salmon Arm, BC. And if she's listening, thank you for calling. These are people that later in life are getting it. And the older you get, the more you come to the realization that death is inevitable. Okay? Your existence on this planet lasts as long as it lasts, and that's that. But as people age, they you start to see that somewhere I'm getting closer to the end of this ride that I've been on, and I'm starting to think maybe a lot of the older people are starting to understand that. And well, she understood it too. We talked about vaccinations and that, and how we believed and how we don't. It was a good talk. But we got to get out there and talk to her people. And I did mention to her again, Salmon Arm is about 10,000 people, I guess, somewhere in there. Not much bigger than the place I'm in, which is about 7,500 people, and that we desperately need to get some newspapers running. We'd most desperately need to get some. We need to really irritate the hell out of the average man and woman is what we need to do. But we need to irritate them in a fashion that draws them to the written word and not repels them from it. Okay? We have to be extremely truthful with these people, but we have to draw them into the, I don't even like to use the word conversation anymore because that's a Marxist, communist, socialist term now. To bring people into the conversation. In other words, bring them into a position that we can propagandize them to them. So, but that's negative propaganda. What we got to get to them is positive propaganda. So I guess it still is starting a conversation. But it has to be done. It really has to be done. We do not have the unending number of funds that the propagandists have. Most of the people that are fighting this are not wealthy people. And it takes a lot of effort to learn this stuff. So, but we got to come and move some stuff forward. Now, I'm probably going to go down and see about joining up to be a Muslim. I don't know exactly what you got to do, but we do have a Muslim. No, it's not called. It's called the Islamic Center, right here in my little town now, 7,500 people, a Scottish town. Probably 99.6% white. And Muslims are starting to trickle in now. And so we have an Islamic center set up here. It's a small little place in a commercial building. And so I'm thinking I might just go join them just as an experiment. Like I said, I did talk to them before when they were here. When they had a kind of a information center conference kind of thing, and I was the only one that showed up. I thought that was quite positive. But it's our local newspaper editor who is bringing them in. It's our local newspaper editor that's telling us that you shouldn't fight against windmills. It's NIMBYism. So we have a socialist, Marxist, communist editor of our local newspaper, which every newspaper is now, in order to bring forward what the bosses want them to bring forward. And it's really pathetic. And that's, again, why we need local newspapers, so we can explain this stuff to people in a fashion that they can understand it. And the beauty of it is, even if they disagree, so some guy picks up a newspaper you put together and send out, and what I would like to see And I would like to hear from some of the listeners or people in the chat or there what I would like to see. I mean, there's only X number of hours in a day. You know, I was up till 3 in the morning last night. I got up early today. There's only so many hours in the day to deal with all of this stuff. Is that we need to set up a newspaper publishing editing board, which we can do on the internet. We can just simply set up a private blog or whatever, of which we can work from and design the paper and work on the stories in the paper and get them edited out properly so that this paper can be sent out anywhere. Okay? So, you know, we do the back end work here. We set up the paper so it's ready for the presses so that, somebody in a community who gets this can raise a few $100s is all it is. It's not expensive, really. What is expensive is not to do it, because if we don't do it, then we're allowing them full reign to do whatever the hell they want to do to us, and we're not coming back at them. So, you know, if we had this set up, which is very simple to set up, we need some dedicated people. And I'm not talking about working 24/7 on this. You bring what you're good at. Okay? If you're a good writer, then please, for crying out loud, get a hold of me. Okay? If you're sincere, then get a hold of me. If you have the capacity to go out and sell a few ads, get a hold of me. It doesn't take an awful lot of people. It does take people that are committed, though, to doing what's right and getting proper information out to the people. So we can set this up very easily so that each one of these runs, and I've said this before, is basically not date timed. Okay? It's not like today's breaking news. No, this is an information package, basically, as a newspaper. But it's not time sensitive, and simply we can have the entire paper done. And if somebody from, I don't care, name a town, it doesn't matter, says, you know, I think I really would like to put this paper out, fine. Then you go get us some information that would be pertinent to your town, that you see happening, or some stuff that we can look into quickly, of which we will do the center spread of the paper. Okay, and that puts in the local, and it ties it to the local, so that they're reading things about their own local, but the rest of it is anywhere news kind of thing. And it gives a local slant to it. Now, a lot of people, when they first read it, are going, this is nuts. Well, not really, and we have to soft shoe it. But the idea is to get a thought process going and conversation going, and I call it changing the coffee shop talk. From the hockey game, or Oprah Winfrey, or the movie you watched, or this or that, into some thought-provoking stuff. To change the conversation at the workplace coffee, or the water cooler, or, you know, where people will come up and say, geez, did you read this? What's actually going on at our local? Well, I didn't know that, nor did I. Why didn't they tell us? Okay, because once you put information into people's head, they can't get it out of there. It's there. They got to deal with it. They can try and bury it, but it's stuck in their head. It's called planting the seed. So, you know, we do have the capacity to do a lot more than we will ever accomplish on the internet. Okay, and that's to get groups of people in local areas to understand what maybe the other people that are speaking out on fluoride or chemtrails or whatever they're speaking out in their particular neighborhood, Agenda 21 and that, who are looked upon as lunatics in the neighborhood, is to validate what these people are saying. Okay? To validate what they've been saying. They're not the nutcases. They're the people that freaking well paid attention. Those who look away, those are the nutcases. Now we have to get them to look. And the only way I can see to do that, other than going door to door and, hi, could you, I'm a neighbor, could you, I'd really like to speak to you on some stuff, and so on and so forth. That's very, very time consuming. Okay? It's not a bad idea, but it's very time consuming. No, the easiest, least expensive, most positive, productive way to get to the people in your neighborhood is to give them what they're used to, and that's the written word. They understand what a newspaper looks like. They understand how to turn the page. Most of them can read. Most of them don't understand how things are written by the main papers in order to deceive you. They see the words on the page and they're left with a understanding of what they read, which is completely incorrect in most cases. These are wordsmiths. They're very crafty. They know how to put this down on a piece of paper so that the people really read it, but they don't really understand what was told to them. Okay? So that's our job, to explain that. I mean, that's a very good story to put out, just explaining to people how to read something, right? How to comprehend what they've read. Just because there's words on the page and you think it means this does not necessarily mean that at all. You have to understand how to read. You have to understand how to comprehend what you read. So it's all about, it's a huge deprogramming process, I suppose, that we need to undertake. And I do not believe that it's going to take a hell of a lot of people to pull it off. We can ship this anywhere, anytime. I mean, I do like the internet because it's a wonderful box of tools, right? It is a toolbox extraordinaire. And we just need to use the tools properly, that's all. Most of the tools we use have been given us to use by those who are deceiving us and deceiving everybody else. We need to use their tools in their toolbox to create our own products. And one of them is a newspaper. And I'm surprised how much resistance I get to this idea. And I have had a lot of resistance to it. Because what it does is it forces people to commit to actually doing something. Okay? And that seems to mess people up. I don't know why, but it does. And so we don't need a lot of committed people to accomplish this. So we set up the papers, and we have the writers and that, and the editors, so that now this, of course, will be accessed on the internet, but it's the same thing. You're still not going to hit that block of people that you will with print edition. Okay, so it needs to go out as a print edition. And then explain to them where they can get further information on whatever particular subject, right? But this has to happen, and it will go a very long way to speed up the awakening of the people. Very, very important. I know I'm talking to people every day now that I talked to 2 years ago. Didn't want to know squat about anything. Now they're going, what the hell's going on? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? Right? Now they're starting to ask questions, but they don't know how to make the next step, which is go find an answer to your question. A lot of people now are going, why are they doing that? And that's as far as they get with it. Well, I don't know. Well, I don't know what they're doing. That'll be the next guy. That'll be the guy he's talking to. I don't know what the hell they're up to. They're all crooked and they're all, like they're screwing with us. Well, you ask the question, go find a damn answer. Now, that's the other part of the paper. Why are our hydro bills so high? Why are our water bills keep going up? Why are taxes keep going up? Why this? Why are they teaching that in the schools? These people are asking the question. They're inviting us to give them the answer in their homes on a written thing that they can go sit in a John and read and contemplate it. They're asking us to get them print in front of their eyes. I don't know why we're not doing it. So guys in North Bay or the guys in Estevan, Saskatchewan or some damn place, or in Hope, British Columbia, or in some little town in Newfoundland. We've got this already print ready. It's already set up for the presses, okay? And all we got to do is, who is your printer down there, right? The thing's ready to hit the presses. All we got to do is ship the PDF over to the press, wherever the hell it is, and they will print it. And Jim in Newfoundland or Susan in Nanaimo, BC, or anywhere else can have nothing invested as far as their time and effort is concerned, because we've already constructed it. Supply us with a little bit of information to fill the 2 pages, something that's going on that's pertinent at the time, and we ship that out. That gives the local take on it, and it's just as fast as the printer can crack it out, which is no time at all, and it's very inexpensive to crack the papers out. When you look at the cost that's or the amount of money that's being spent to propagandize us in general, this is a joke. Cost-wise, okay, you can put out a small paper, 5,000 copies, $700. You go get 10 friends, get them to chip in $70. You've just got yourself a newspaper. Now get it out on the street. If we can't do something that simple, then we might as well just go and forget the whole damn thing, because we're not going to change anything. We got to commit to some stuff. And I'm not asking anybody to commit to anything that's difficult. Okay? Bring forward what you're good at. I don't even care if you're good at it. You'll get good at it. You know, if you are good with Photoshop, then bring your talent. You know, we can turn these papers into income producing situations. Once we got these papers up and running and people start to read them, you know, you may have to go out of pocket through friends and that for the first few editions, but the people that we're printing for, they've got nothing invested in it, really. Okay, because we've already pre-produced this stuff. Their job is to raise the capital to get it printed and figure out how to distribute it, which is a very small commitment on their side. We're making a small commitment on our side, and that's to get this thing ready for production or for print, to produce it. Now, I guarantee you, having spent a long time in marketing, I'll guarantee you that as this thing goes out and as people start talking about it, negative or positive, it doesn't matter as long as they're talking about it, you'll be able to sell advertising in it. Okay, then it becomes self-financing, or it shows a profit. I mean, a newspaper, 5,000 people, if you sell a page, you know, or 2 pages advertising, you've more than paid for it. Okay? So we're getting out to the people, and actually what we've done is we've created a large-scale publishing company where we can publish anywhere, anytime, for basically nothing. This idea that we can't compete with the media because we don't have the finances in that is an excuse not to do what needs to be done. I hear people say, well, people won't read it. Well, of course they'll read it. People read shit. Okay? And it's beautiful because even if Joe doesn't read it, and Sally does read it, and Joe and Sally know each other, and Joe and Sally go have a coffee or they work together, and Sally says to Joe, and I'm saying it this way because I'm finding that most of the people that I find really working positive seem to be the women. So Sally's going to say to Joe, "Hey Joe, did you read that in that publication that came by?" No, I didn't know what it was. Well, I'm telling you, man, I was reading this, and there's some really interesting things that are very pertinent to what's going on here in our own town. Well, really, what about it? Well, you got it. You still got it. I don't know if I threw it or not. Well, I'll get you my copy. Okay? This is how you involve people. People have been to the position now where they don't have any kind of a intelligent conversation. The conversations are about the ball game or the hockey game or the TV show or the movie, or look what they're doing to the kids in the school. Yeah, look what they're doing to the kids in the school. And then do something about it. This is about encouraging the people in your neighborhood, in your community, to engage themselves. That yes, they do have the capacity to make the changes that are necessary. And that kind of goes back to that sheriff, and I don't know what any of these sheriffs are up. I don't know if they're on the up and up or they're players. I have no idea. But that sheriff I was talking about last night, who said he's done 3 terms, wants to do a 4th term, and what he's doing is he's busy trying to explain to the people in his territory that they do not have to put up with this nonsense from the feds. Okay? And what happens? They get beat up for it. Okay? Businesses have been pulled out. Jobs have been pulled out, trying to hurt the people, to try to get them to submit. And the sheriff's down there telling them, we're not going to submit. It's about teaching people to be able to stand up, And as both those sheriffs I spoke about last night, both of them are smart enough to say, I ain't no hero. Okay, because when you're looking for heroes, you're looking not to be responsible. And if the hero saves you, so be the hero. If the hero fails, then we just go back into our role of total and complete submission. No. This is a commitment that we have to make to each other. And I don't care what anybody says. We have a to those who came before us, who give us the opportunity they thought, even though they were hoodwinked right coming out of the gates. They were used when they were brought here to these countries, and they were used by the corporations. They were used by those who created a feudal system in order to lay claim to these lands for the corporation. But they didn't come here because of that. They came here to get out from underneath the thumb of where they came from. They came here for freedom. That's why they came here, and it must have been a hell of a commitment to leave their homelands and get on them boats and go to a land they know nothing about, to a future they know nothing about. But it was stand up and do something or things ain't going to ever change. So they did that. We owe it to them. So if they could commit to what they did to come and get on them boats not knowing where they were going or what the future was going to give for them, but they made that commitment to try to get those who came after them in a position of freedom. than producing this paper that we can shove out to communities across these lands for a pittance of effort and a pittance of money. And we can't put this together, then we deserve everything we get. And we have no right whatsoever to complain about the situation we find ourselves in, knowing that the situation those who come after us is going to be far more severe than what we've experienced so far. And if we can't stand up to commit to something like that, then we might as well just go stick our heads up our asses and call it a day. And that's how I feel about the whole situation. But before I go today, I want to, if I can find it before this goes off, because this made me smile last night. I got this last night after the show. I'm not going to say who wrote it, but if the one who wrote it wishes to take not responsibility for it, but credit for it, then please do. Okay? Where the hell did I get to now? Here it is. Now, this was sent to me last night on Facebook after the show, and it made me smile. And I think we should always leave these shows with a smile. I may sound a little raggy today, but I'm extraordinarily tired, and I want to get something done, and I need people's help to get it done. And I'm not asking for anything but a little bit of your time, a little bit of your effort, and we get this put together and get on with it. Now, this, and again, if the one who wrote this is in the chat today, please, if you wish, take credit for it. You deserve it. I found this very humorous, very telling, and absolutely truthful, is how screwed up this place is that we're in. Very short, it says, with all this transgender talk going on, I feel that it's time I share my secret. I'm trans financial. I love this. I think this is absolutely brilliant. Which means I am a rich woman in a poor woman's body. Please send me your money so I can fix my financial identity issue. Is that brilliant or what? This busted me up last night after the show. I thought that was good. And, and I just wrote back and said, we should start a group for the trans financial peoples of the world. So that's basically where I'm going to leave this thing today. If I upset anybody with my rhetoric, tough. I'm still looking for the men. I keep finding the women, or they're finding me. And I want to take my hat off to them because the women I've been talking to are completely committed to getting this turned around. And it's the men who are supposed to be the roosters, who are supposed to be looking after the house. The house got taken over by the weasels and foxes a long time ago, and the ladies have put up with it to the point where they don't want to put up with it anymore. So man up, rooster up, do whatever you want to call it. But it is game on, and somebody's going to win the game. I suggest it be us. And I do believe, I have no doubt in my mind that we can win this. We need to win it. We will win it. But we just have to make a commitment to do so. And give that paper some thought. If you have something... back here Tuesday, 7 to 8. Hopefully it might be today's show.
Selling lies and buying time, killing people, mixing live, lower classes, social slime, they don't matter, genocide, sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care, Caesar shit, force of air, fuck them back, it's only for they bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape, they burn the kids, no one makes gun, trees, lie to your face.